In every discovery, there is trial and there is error. There is experimentation and there is failure. And sometimes we're just plain wrong. Even the best discoveries come from an idea that's really spaced out.
We've all seen videos of astronauts floating weightlessly above the Earth. And of course, you've heard the expression zero gravity, and perhaps even experienced it on the Bomodorama at last year's county fair.
Those fried Twinkies were so good on the way down.
But we'll reveal a misnomer that has fueled our imaginations for decades. Gravity gets weaker with distance, but never falls all the way to zero because there's always some celestial object pulling you, like a star or, heavens forbid, an entire galaxy. You can't escape the bounds of gravity any more than you can escape the grasp of the IRS.
That brings back some bad memories. Oh, my beautiful repossessed chariot. How I miss thee. Remember my touch?
What we're saying here is not as crazy as it sounds. We're not trying to prove that there's no such thing as the feeling of weightlessness.
It's obvious that people float around when their ships go in outer space. We've seen it a million times over. It's just that the problem is we're mixing up concepts and definitions when we say weightless and zero gravity. When people go into orbit and say they feel weightless, it's not because there's no gravity, it's because of the fact that they're in orbit around the Earth. The ship is flying around the Earth at such speed so it can counteract Earth's gravity and prevent itself from falling back toward the surface. That speed generally varies between a brisk 17,000 to racy 19,000 miles per hour.
Then the people on the inside can just float around inside the ship, which is constantly battling Earth's gravitational forces. It's actually a lot more like continuously falling than it is escaping gravity itself. The gravity's always going to be there, and because of that, we're always falling towards the Earth. But because we're circling the Earth fast enough to equal out the pull of gravity, we don't actually lose altitude as we fall.
Here's a simpler example to think about. Have you ever seen a cartoon or a movie where an elevator is falling and the people inside are able to move around by floating all around the cabin? Well, that's just what the astronauts are doing. They're in a shuttle that's always falling as well, but it's just orbiting the Earth too fast to actually lose altitude as it falls. Booyah.
Okay, take a look at the pictures. See the arrows? These represent the forces acting on the ship. A centripetal force is the force that pulls you to the center, the force of gravity. The arrow pointing upward is the force that comes from your speed. That's called the centrifugal force. Think about a slingshot. When the stone swings around, what's causing it to gain energy and spin faster as you spin harder and harder? That's centrifugal force. Spin it fast enough, it defies gravity. The same applies to spaceships and Earth. So why aren't the people smashed against the walls of the ship like a stone inside its sling?
Because everything inside the ship is moving around the Earth as well. It's being pulled inward by gravity and is being held outward by its speed. Relative to the ship, it isn't moving at all, actually. So if you're in the ship, you just float around.
NASA's discovered how to create weightlessness in atmospheric flight, and it's called the C9 Reduced Gravity Aircraft, more affectionately referred to as the Vomit Comet. The Vomit Comet is an airplane that flies in 6-mile-long arcs, climbing and then smoothly falling in such a way that the flight path and speed seemingly cancel out the effects of gravity entirely.
Oh yeah, you can pay for that now. Go up in a jet and then feel weightless. And it is so cool, and I am going right after this show. Could I possibly get paid in cash? No? All right. There's no such thing as zero gravity. Gravity exists all over the universe. For years, people have been using a misnomer, like the word irregardless. Doesn't exist. Because that's what we call space